So I first became interested in the environment about 3 summers ago when I attended the James River Expedition, which is a program through the James River Association. So it's an 8-day program over the summer. It's known as like a floating classroom. So that's where I originally learned about the James River and the watershed and kind of everything that it entails. So I was with a group of 9 other students from around the watershed, and we paddled about a little less than 8 days from Lynchburg to Cartersville. And I learned a lot about conservation and stewardship and just about the river in general that I didn't really know. So that continued my interest in the environment my junior year when I applied for the James River Leadership Academy, which is another program through the James River Association, where you kind of learn more about being a steward and like leading environmental efforts. And we had to conduct our own community-based action project where we go out to our communities and kind of just help improve the river in some sort of way. And these programs are where I met my mentor, Georgia Bush. She is the lead educator at the James River Association. She's been working there for a few years now. So I kind of kept in contact with her throughout the years, and we became pretty close friends. She has just been my mentor throughout high school and has really helped me. But we didn't really talk much about like job sort of things, so it was interesting to talk to her about this sort of thing. Being like watching her and interning with her to see what she does. So I attended a field trip as part of my internship with Goochland Middle School students. It was on like a Saturday to Sunday. It was an overnight field trip at the James River Ecology School, which this is it, on Presque Isle National Wildlife Refuge. So the students, they were 6th graders, about 18 of them arrived at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and we took a boat over to the island where they kind of unpacked their things and got settled into the bunkhouse, which is the building over to your left. And we kind of explained the rules to them, and then we got back on the boat where we started doing some like water quality testing. So in this picture, the kids are testing the turbidity, which is like how cloudy or clear the water is. So you take a string that's attached to like a disc, and you drop it in there, and you pull it up a certain amount of ways, and then once you can see the white disc, that's when you pull it up and you measure how clear the water is. We also tested things like pH, nitrogen levels, dissolved oxygen, and the temperature. So then the kids, after we did all that and they got all their measurements, we kind of sat and talked about it, and they kind of saw like what was considered good or bad, and how they could improve things. So after lunch, we went on a canoe trip. So most of Presque Isle National Wildlife Refuge is kind of marshy. So there was a little creek that went out and flowed into the James. So this isn't actually like the James River, it's kind of just shooting off of it. So I was canoeing with this kid, his name was Tyler, and he actually went to Bird Elementary School, which is where I went. So it was really interesting to talk to him, and he was completely amazed that when I went to Bird, there wasn't a gym there that they had built after I left, and he thought that was absolutely crazy. But it was a lot of fun to paddle with them and just kind of see how their lives were. One of the things that I did on this canoe ride was we kind of all the canoes like bundled up together, and we stopped and we talked about parasites because we were looking at like mistletoe in one of the trees, which is a parasite. So Georgia wanted me to stand up and kind of give a little lesson on it because I knew about them. The first challenge with that was standing in the canoe without falling over. And then it was really kind of difficult to teach them because I started talking about it using these big words, and they didn't really know what I was saying, so I kind of had to like retrace my steps and start using different ways to explain it to them. So that was a lot of fun. That was probably one of my favorite parts of this experience, was being out there canoeing with them and just doing something different. So later that night, we went out. After it got dark, we went on a night hike. So we went hiking in the dark, no flashlights, nothing like that. And we walked to the edge of the island where you could look across the river and see like Hopewell and all of the factories and that sort of thing. And I think the most rewarding part of the project was then all the kids just kind of like sat there and they started asking us questions about different sorts of things and like the lights from Hopewell and the factories and how the factories were affecting the river and how that was, and they just were so interested in everything going on, and just kind of made the whole experience really rewarding to see that they were actually interested in what we were teaching them. But this was Sunday morning. After they woke up, we kind of changed gears a little bit, and we did sensory poems. So they went out, and this is the gray water garden. So water from the bathhouse gets flown out into this garden area. There's nothing really growing there because it was fall and you couldn't really see much. But they used each of their senses to like listen and see, and they wrote a poem based on that. And some of them were like really good. I was extremely surprised at how good they were. So that's pretty much what I did for my internship. And then for my research project, I decided to kind of switch things because I focused on education for my internship. So for my research paper, I focused on like a local issue. I researched about coal ash, which is kind of a byproduct of burning coal that pretty much all power companies deal with. So most coal ash is placed into retention ponds, which are just ponds filled with the ash and water, but they aren't really a permanent solution, and there's been a big push to kind of release them, like move them and get rid of them because they can leak at any time. They can really be disastrous to the environment. So I researched different ways of getting rid of these retention ponds, and the main way to do that is to release the water into local waterways. And this has become a big issue in Virginia because Dominion Power has just received grants to release their water from their coal ash ponds at two factories above and below Richmond. It's not really known how releasing this water will impact the wildlife and that sort of thing in there. So that's really what I wanted to look at, but it wasn't really known how it will affect because it's such a new issue. But I also learned that you can recycle coal ash into cement and asphalt, which was really interesting. I hadn't known that. So, and then for my community service, I worked at Shalom Farms. It's a local nonprofit farm that tries to provide access to fresh vegetables to people living in food deserts, which are areas where people don't have access within like 3 miles of their house to fresh vegetables. So they have their own farm, so they grow vegetables, and then they take those vegetables and they supply them to like convenience stores and 7-Elevens and that sort of thing, mostly in the city of Richmond. They're also set up at a few farmers markets. So I did my volunteering with this lady here. Her name is Sarah. She is the assistant farm manager. And so I first got in contact with her, and she was so excited to have me out at the farm, just kind of learning things. And I had never really been interested in farming before, but this project really kind of changed that. So this was the farm last season. It was about 3 acres big. They grow all sorts of things there: potatoes, lettuce, tomatoes. But they just recently upgraded to a new farm that's about double the size. The Shalom Farms did not hire any new staff workers, so they still have about 6 farmers that will work there, only 2 that are full-time. So they really depend on volunteers a lot. They're mainly run on volunteers, and one of the biggest things that they need is they need the farm to like look nice and be appealing so that they'll get volunteers to work there, because if it looks really run down, no one really wants to go work there and volunteer. So what I did was I started working to do like farm beautification type of things. So at the beginning of this project, I've been really interested in art, and I couldn't just decide between doing something environmental or something art related because I was really interested in both, and I knew that I wanted to do something environmental in the future, but I thought it would be really cool to do something art related. So I figured I'd somehow tie it into this project, doing something environmental. So these are some propaganda type things that are painted on like wooden panels and then hung to like attached to one of the barns. So they're movable because a lot of the artwork that was at the old farm was painted directly on the pavilions and that sort of thing, so it couldn't really be moved. So I did that, and then I also worked to restore these old window frames. They were really run down, really falling apart. So I repaired them, replaced some of the wood, and then painted them so they looked brand new. so they can get recon. And then there are also these little markers that indicate like what each vegetable is. So that's a little kale type thing, and then there are carrots, potatoes, tomatoes, all that sort of thing. And my advice for future students is just to do something you love. You can really combine things and like combine like different things that you love to one project, like how I combine the environment and the artwork I was interested in to like one project and just to have fun. I mean, just kind of go with it. And another thing is just don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. I know like before this project, I was terrified to make a phone call. And I remember the first time I had to make a phone call, I think I sat at my desk for like 30 minutes before I could actually do it. Um, so, and now I don't have any problems making phone calls or reaching out to other people. So it's just a really great experience to kind of get out there. Next year, I will be attending one of these universities. If I go to UVA, I'll be studying environmental science. If I go to Virginia Tech, I'll either be studying natural resource conservation or sustainable agriculture. Any questions?
One thing that I've been for skill with the sixth grade team. Could you explain? I think the audience will find it interesting how they run their bathroom facilities so that they can gather the gray water, like the rules they have for toothpaste and all that fun stuff. I just think it's
it's really so the toilets they're composting toilets, so you don't really have much water there. You can only go to the bathroom and then put toilet paper in there. But then the sinks, since they go into the gray water garden and they aren't like filtered that much or anything, you have to use special soap and toothpaste. You can't like use your own toothpaste because of the chemicals in it or something. So they have to like supply your toothpaste and all that, so it's all like safe to go out into the environment. Yes.
Why do organic vegetables cost so much more in the grocery store than the others?
So I know that Shalom Farms, they just practice organic farming techniques, but to be certified organic is like a 3-year process. So it takes a really long time to become certified organic, and it costs a lot more just to be organic in general. So your prices are higher, and partly just like the label organic, so you pay more.